Welcome to the Perlo Podcast. We talk construction, its people, its challenges, its opportunities. We talk to industry and trade experts, movers and shakers, and people who get buildings built right. Join us, you won't regret it. Welcome back to the Perlo Podcast. My name is Elissa Looney. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives here at Perlo Construction, and I am joined today by two of our great superintendents to talk a little more about their experience in the field. So welcome to Mark Helling and George Trice.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for having us.
So a little background on these two. George, you started with Perlo in 1994 as a carpenter in the field before moving into a foreman role and then into superintendent in 2005. You've now completed dozens of projects as an on-site superintendent for us, a particular focus on concrete tilt-up industrial buildings. Is that right?
Yep.
Mark was a carpenter for 30 years, which is hard to believe since he looks like he's only 35. Before moving into project foreman in 2006 and then up to superintendent in 2012, Mark has completed a variety of buildings as a project superintendent, including multiple wineries, food service buildings, industrial projects, really a pretty wide variety. Both Mark and George are true builders, and they can make a room laugh until your stomach hurts. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they have to say today. So gentlemen, talk to me about your work. What does a typical day in the life look like for you?
Typical day in the life. There's a lot of joking around, but there's a lot of seriousness in it too. Try to make it fun out there for the guys, but there's always the little practical jokes you're always playing on each other out there. So just to break the morale up a little bit, but things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mark, what does it look like? You show up in the morning, what happens?
Typically the goal is to get some work done, right? And so we got to show up early, make sure that the job's ready to go, crews all know what they're doing, things are lined out, So as far as typical days, it's construction. It seems like it's more untypical than it's typical a lot of days. No matter what amount of preparation you do, you're always kind of winging it to deal with unforeseens, But yeah, it's usually start up early, open up the job trailer, get the crew going, get people lined out, and get ready for whatever the task at hand is.
Let's throw it back a little bit. Tell some stories from old. Let's talk about what it was like to come up through the ranks of a construction site, which may not be the same as somebody would experience today, but what was it like when you were a carpenter out in the field?
We'll let Mark start with that one.
Well, it's definitely not the same. I think we agree on that.
We ran in the gray a lot, me and Mark. We were partners for quite a while, so, when you say gray, back then we didn't have safety people coming to our jobs every day. So as a carpenter, you don't think it's unsafe, the things that you're doing, because you never had anything that ever happened, but things could have happened, and we were always there just to bust butt and get the job done, and we didn't worry about those things. Now you're in supervision, and you sort of got to worry about those things nowadays. You got to make sure everyone goes home safe. And when you're a carpenter, because I've been there, it's always hard when someone's doing something, you think, God, I did the same thing when I was a carpenter, but we can't do that now. You know what I mean?
Yep. So, George, a carpenter and a rebar tire fall into an elevator pit. Who comes out first?
Well, I was on top. It wasn't really a fall. That was Curtis, me joking around there, and he grabbed me. And when he grabbed me, it turned into a wrestling match. Well, when I threw him down, he sort of hung onto my neck and pulled us into the elevator pit. And, if it was real, it might have been a different outcome. But he definitely put a crank on my neck, that's for sure.
How long ago was this that happened?
Oh, geez. Larry Peters was doing the car dealership in Wilsonville right there. So whatever year that was, that had to be before I became a foreman. So early 2000 probably.
All right.
Early 2000 probably.
You don't wrestle on the job site anymore?
Oh, they did after that. There's a lot of that went on back in the day, but they don't do it no more. I mean, there's a lot of that went on. it was just joking around. But now you can't do that either.
Mark, was that your history too?
Oh shoot! If we want to talk about every wrestling match, yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of joking around.
Oh yeah.
But and we still joke around and fool around and whatnot. But there is a lot more to think about nowadays.
Oh yeah.
I think the biggest difference in old days. I think more in old days we just went out and got the work done. We didn't have as much supervision. Seemed like very little oversight, and we just made things up as we went.
Yeah. In the old days, Mark could call me every name in the book over there, and I'd laugh like a seven because we just took it that way, and I'd yell back him, say anything, run over there, and one guy might jump on the other guy because he yelled something to him, but you're getting a lot done. Nowadays, you say something to someone and it hurts their feelings. And it wasn't like that when we were working. You'd bark at guys all the time because they weren't getting stuff done, and they'd pick up the pace a little bit. Now you bark at them, you hurt their feelings, and they call HR, and you're in trouble.
Back in the old days, they just hurt your neck, right?
Yeah, back in the old days, it just hurt your neck.
Maybe put a bump on your head, and that was fine.
And it didn't count as an injury.
Yeah, no crud, no. Even the injuries didn't count as injuries back then. You were always doing something to yourself. I remember Fred breaking his hand and me giving him crap. He hit it with a sledgehammer. I said, just put some dirt on it and get back to work, and worked all day. And your dad shows up the next day. He was a project manager then. Fred's hand's huge. He goes, you need to go. Broke. Went to the doctor, was broke. So he worked 2 days with a broken hand. So.
Yeah, same guy, Fred. Remember, he broke a guy's nose, and that never ended up with a trip to the doctors or anything.
Story I have not heard.
So in the old days, you pick big mats up, pack them out there, and we use the roller screed for Palladini. So they'd put 4 mats in, trucks it back in, you'd pour, put 4 mats in again. Well, it was tied with another mat, and there's, I don't know how many of us packing it, 20 guys, you think? 15?
There's probably only 6 or 8.
6, I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyways, Mac pulls on it, and it was tied, and Fred goes, cut that wire on there, Mac. And right when he reached down to cut, Fred jerks on it, stuffed a rebar chunk up Mac's nose, blood everywhere, broken nose.
No, it was bad.
Oh yeah, Mac kept working.
Well then, yeah, he kept working.
Yeah.
Yeah, things were different, but a lot has changed. A lot has changed. In the old days, you were expected to just figure it out. Yeah. Nowadays, there's a lot more planning that goes into everything.
And I think a lot of the carpenters were more seasoned back in those days. We done it for so much, tilt, and the same guys, you know what I mean? So when you went built footings, you knew how to build footings. You went out and build panels, you knew how to build panels and in beds and everything. We had the same guys, well, Tim did all the time. Same guys were on Tim's crew all the time. He'd steal them from the other soups. Hey, you need to come to my job.
Yeah, that being said though, so we did have more seasoned guys. It seemed like more people knew exactly what needed to be done. But I see now where it's starting to turn. We've actually starting to get some really good guys, that have been around. And I would go as far as to say maybe the way they work is a bit different than when we worked in 20 years ago. But times are different.
Better guys now.
And
sure.
And our guys are, I would say, technically they're more skilled than we were.
Yeah, probably.
They have more, and that's large in part that, we've evolved in how we run the jobs. I would say how we run the jobs, we put a lot more oversight in than our predecessors did. Consequently, some of our regular guys, technically, they've got a lot more skills than we had,
I think the difference is it was always a competition.
Yeah.
If Helling was over there with a guy building steel rail and you were on the other side, you'd always tell the kid, they better not beat us because we'll never hear the end of it, so we better beat them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what the difference is.
Yeah, but it's starting to turn. We're getting some really good guys out in the field, and that's a big deal.
I had some good guys on this job here.
Yeah, you did. You were blessed. You were very fortunate to have the guys that you did, and almost every job you go to, there's and all it takes is one good guy makes 2 other guys better. You put 6 good guys on a crew. Now the other 20 of them, you built a pretty good crew, and like I said, that's starting to turn. We're getting a lot more better guys out in the field. I think that's it for a lot of different reasons. One, we're finding the good guys. Two, they're sticking with us, and then folks, you know, the Gary Lundervolds, the Fred Lutz, you, me, we're putting a lot into these people, and they're, I mean, I think we're fortunate to have a lot of the guys that we have, you know, so that's all good stuff.
It sounds like it's not been terribly intentional, but there's actually been a lot of mentorship then of this sort of younger crew that's coming up.
For sure. I mean, if you talk about mentors, you know, they come in all different kinds. I mean, we were fortunate to work for Tim, for Fred, as much as painful as it was. I mean, we can both agree we were fortunate to be able to work for Crail, you know.
Crail was a very smart guy,
yeah,
just an on-real cuss, but smart.
Yeah, and I mean, that was, in hindsight, kind of one of those, if it don't kill you, it will make you stronger. And I mean, that being said, yeah, we've been fortunate to be around some good people, you know. That's I would say that's why I like Perlo right now, is because the handful of the history, the relationships, handfuls of people that you've worked with back then and today, you know, that's who you associate the company with, personally.
That's an interesting thought, because there has been so much change. The company has grown, the industry has changed significantly. The owners have changed in terms of what they require, right? A lot of our safety initiatives or cultural initiatives are actually driven by client demand. What they dictate changes sometimes how we operate, and there's a push-pull there. Sometimes it's the industry driving it, sometimes it's the clients driving it. So how do you deal with that change?
Change, evolve or die, right? So I don't know. I mean, as much as, you know, at times guys like us would like to complain about something that we consider to be,
you know,
unnecessary.
All the meetings you have, all the safety stuff, you know, it's hard to get, I gotta go to that meeting. You got so much going on in your work, and you're thinking, I gotta go to the office, take 4 hours on my day, I don't have time for this. But you actually need it. And it makes it hard, because you're trying to do your job, the office is telling you need to come to the office, and you're thinking, I got so much going on today, I don't need to go to the office today. But we do need that. And the safety we definitely need. But when you sort of run the red like me and Helling do, it makes it sort of, you know, it's sort of tough to change. It is, but we do it.
Well, just hyper-focused on trying to get your job accomplished, you know, I think. But I wouldn't say we run, it's not like we run in the red.
I run in the red a lot. I used to. I've gotten lots better, but I'm in the red a lot, you know. But it you know, what it is you're trying to get the job done, you know, things are going on, and you forget about a meeting, then you see it that morning, oh crud, we got to go to a meeting, you know what I mean? I think that's the difference, what makes you get a little wound up, think, God, I don't have time for this, but we make time, we make it happen, and it's good to have them. And it's good to see everyone's faces in the meetings too.
Yeah.
Just a lot of these newer guys, you know, not saying, you know, we did that, done that, but some of these younger guys that are coming up, I mean, I got a young up-and-coming foreman that I think will make a superintendent one of these days, and I mean, he cares and he works hard, and guys like the older guys that come in, they can learn a lot from them. Mm-hmm. So
good to know that there's that push and pull, right? Sort of a checks and balances. What you guys do versus what the office does, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mark, I heard you got into construction through a high school vocational program, and there may have been some pranks and ribbing with the teacher. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes. So a teacher of mine, when I was in high school, I wasn't really focused on school, didn't have a lot of direction. I guess you could say school wasn't where my focus was if I did have one. But this young guy and his father, they had a construction company, 2 generations of carpenters, and I would say these guys were really, really skilled, had some old construction knowledge. And the son and this father-son team, they decided to start this ROP program, they called it, to bring construction into high schools to kind of mentor kids, give them some vocational skills and ways to earn a living. If you keep in mind, this was back in the 80s when they were starting to phase out, your auto shop programs, your welding programs. And it was kind of a turning point, gave me some focus. The guy was a young guy I could relate to. What he was teaching us had it was interesting to us, So, but it was a class filled with some pretty rough kids, and unfortunately we kind of took it out on our teacher at times, who had the best intentions. But yeah, there was some practical jokes that probably went a little too far.
Don't you think we need to hear what? Yeah, I think we do too. I mean, you can't just sit there and ignore that.
I was trying to dance around it.
Yeah, I noticed fidgeting a little over there.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared for that one. That was on the list. Okay, so what it came down to is so this particular teacher, he had 25 kids in his class, all rough kids, and we would typically do 2 days of in-class work, and they would take us out to job sites, and we would work on job sites for 3 days a week, and try to apply some of what we'd been taught. And it was also a form of slave labor. We would go out to his father's construction sites and build homes and whatnot. Anyways, part of the drill was we would meet at school at 6 in the morning. 25 kids would pile into 2 vans. We would stop at the local Jack in the Box, grab coffee and a breakfast sandwich, and go out to work for 3 hours a day. There was a time where I thought it'd be a good idea, while the teacher was going about his morning business in the restroom, we took non-dairy creamer, filled all the vents in the van on the dash with non-dairy creamer, aimed them all towards the driver's seat. We also took all the hubcaps off and filled the hubcaps with rocks, and then waited for him to come out. When he came out to the van, we were all sitting quietly, which was not ordinary, and waiting for him to turn on the ignition. When he turned it on, he got a steady stream of non-dairy creamer blowing into his face. And then after he pulled out on the road, he noticed the horrendous noise coming from the axles of the van. Pulled it over, thinking there was something really wrong with it. Called for a tow truck. Towed the van back, and he was pretty upset at this point. Towed the van back to the auto shop. When they removed the hubcaps, then it was obvious there was nothing wrong with the wheel bearings. So that was one thing we did to him. There was quite a few others.
And he continued to put up with you.
Oh yeah, he did. The guy was a great guy. After 2 years of putting up with us, he decided he wasn't cut out to be a high school teacher, and he went back into construction full-time and offered me a full-time job. I worked for him for a number of years, and he still calls me every Christmas. And I generally call him around 4th of July. So there's another mentor, if you will. But one of the smartest guy I've ever worked with, super good guy.
Would you have gone into construction without that program, you think?
Honestly, I don't know what I would have done. I owe a lot of thanks to that guy.
George, how did you get into construction?
So I logged right out of high school, and Tim Kofstead, his wife, and my wife were best friends in high school. So I was dating my wife, and we set Tim up with him because I was logging with Tim then. And We were the best friends for probably 17 years. And when, let's see, the economy one was the spotted owl. It must have been about 93, 94. Spotted owl came in effect. Tim asked if I wanted to be a carpenter, and I said, what the heck, yeah, I'll be a carpenter. And actually, Terry Egger, they needed a patcher. So I got interviewed from him to be a patcher for Perlo, and I did that for 3 years, and then I put a screeching halt. He's drinking my water again. You noticed that, didn't you?
I saw that.
Yeah. Must be. He must be thirsty.
Don't worry about it.
So that's how I got in through Tim.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Vlogger.
Or I would have never ever. I didn't even know what a 16 dupe nail was when I came to work for Perlo. I kid you not, I didn't know anything about construction whatsoever.
Not one thing.
Not one thing. And I ran from one spot to the next just to make up for it, because I said, I'm not getting fired because I'm not hustling, boys.
Hey, it's a good way to go.
Yep.
That's a good way to go.
Yeah.
Okay, serious note.
Who you asking this time?
Both of you.
Okay.
I'm going to hear from both of you.
All right.
What is it about your job that's rewarding?
I think probably when you look at when your job's done, well, here's how it is with me. I'll just explain it this way. When I drive by a job with my kids, grandkids, or whatever, you always point out, I built that building right there. Gives you a good feeling. I think that's it. Mr. Helling?
Yeah, I could go. I mean, there's some satisfaction in that.
Yeah.
I think when you ask what's rewarding about our job, I think it's different now than what I originally found rewarding about construction. I used to really enjoy a hard day's work and looking at the end of the day and see what you accomplished that day. And to what you were saying earlier, I used to really enjoy I wanted to show up every day because there was somebody that you wanted to be better than.
Yeah.
That's what I used to really like about construction.
I didn't know you thought about me that way. But yeah, I'll tell a story there. I did look up to him when he first came there. Kid could out nail anybody, and we don't nail like framers. And we first worked together, and he's nailing off this footing. I'm thinking, God, he must be only putting one nail in that son of a gun. He is flying. And then I told myself, someday I'm going to nail as fast as him. Well, that never happened because we don't nail enough to get faster than that. But I got way better because he'd teach you all these little tricks. But he was hands down the best nailer Perlo ever had. I'll guarantee you that.
Haven't you won the nailing contest at the company picnics that we used to do? We used to do a contest at our company picnics in the summer, and they'd set a big board out and they would start nails, and one by one, everybody would go through and see how many tries it took to get the nail down into the board.
Roach run it a few times. I took a second to Roach one year.
But that wasn't like real world application. Who wants to drive? Just so you can drive one nail, it's how many you can drive in a minute, an hour, a day.
Coming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
I don't know if I want to try that anymore. My finger don't shut now, so I might hit a few.
No, but nowadays, I think sometimes it's a little harder to find. If you want to look at the satisfaction in a day, sometimes it's harder to find that satisfaction because there's obstacles and frustrations, But what I would say now that, in the supervision end of it, I think it's rewarding when you can get people to work together. I have to remind myself of that sometimes. If it's a tough day, maybe you got a hard job to do, maybe things are not going just right, or the weather conditions suck. If you can keep everybody positive and productive, that's rewarding now, I would say. But it's not easy to do, So I guess that's my feelings on that. Yeah. But it is nice to drive by something that you built.
I think when you drive by things and you see that our company and us. The ones that you built, you always think, I built that building. Geez, I built that building a long time ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's amazing. You drive around Portland and you see things that you forgot about until you
drive by. Geez, we built that building right there.
Holy smokes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Do your kids roll their eyes at you when you point it out?
I think they get sort of excited to know that we did that. I mean, my grandkids come to my job still today on work days. They like coming, so.
Well, but that was the thing back in, how many times did you see Tim's son on a job site?
Yeah. Oh, my kids came to Tim's job sites back then. They drove the Gator all over the place.
Yeah, that was neat back then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We were just telling stories about when I used to come in on the weekends with my dad and draw pictures, and apparently I left them all on Crystal's desk. So she'd come in on Monday morning with sketches from me. What do you think people should know about being a superintendent, working on a construction site? If they are thinking about it, what should they know?
Don't do it. No. What should they know? Are you thinking what should they know to become a superintendent, or are you saying what do they need to really prepare themselves for?
Either way. I think it could go either way.
Dealing with people.
Need to be able to deal with people.
When I first started, I was sort of a yeller and screamer because I stressed real bad. I still stress, but I've gotten way better over the years. When you yell and scream at people, it doesn't get a lot accomplished. Sure, it may have made you feel better, but you don't get a lot accomplished. Mm-hmm. Treat people a little better and they'll probably work a little harder for you, and you won't make them look like a fool in front of everybody else when you're screaming and yelling out and making yourself look like a fool, when you could talk it over and figure out what to do and those kind of things. So dealing with people is probably my number one thing.
I like that.
So was it specifically to being a superintendent? Because you don't just be a superintendent. I guess some people do. Some people just become a superintendent. I don't know that everybody takes the ground level up path so.
That's true. There are multiple routes to superintendent,
there's multiple
right?
routes, and I mean, I don't know if, from my perspective, if you're going to get into construction, I mean, it can be a good living. I mean, as much as I like to complain sometimes, I don't like to, but I'm guilty of it. Pretty fortunate, again, going back to that high school teacher of mine, I called him up a while ago and just said, hey, thanks, he kind of started to where I was able to have a career that provided me with a pretty good life, for myself and my family, So it can be a good career for some people, but that same high school teacher, his father had told me when I worked for them that if you're going to be in construction, you need to be prepared to work with some rough people, and you got to develop a thick skin. You need to learn to save your money because it's feast or famine. And he had told me that it's a career, but this job is not a career. The trade is a career. And every day you show up for work, you're working yourself out of a job. That's your goal, is to complete the work. And then you might have to go find a different job for somebody else. He told me at that point that you need to have a black book with a list of people to call in that black book. Because essentially he explained it as if, you were a migrant farm worker. When this crop is picked, you need to find another crop to pick, and you need to, and that's a job skill. So you needed to have different people that you can work for. You needed to be okay with working yourself out of the job. You need to be okay with being laid off. A lot of people take that personally, and they look at that as, some guys, they'll get a layoff check and think it's the end of the world. No, that just means that you got to go find another job, and it can be. I used to really enjoy that, I liked hustling the next job, and I liked putting another name in my book, you know, but that came from that one guy. I mean, I worked for him for 2 years, and after 2 years, he gave me a layoff check. Not because he didn't have any work, he just thought I needed to learn that lesson and go find another job. He said, you've worked for me for 2 years, you've learned all you can at this point in time here, you need to go work for somebody else. Come back, call me in a year when you got a couple more names in your black book and you've learned some other skills from other people. He says, I'll always have a job for you, but I don't have anything for you now. You know, so I think a lot of guys nowadays need to come to terms with that, you know. I mean, you're laying off guys right now. How many of those guys are going to be okay with that?
So I back on his point there where he's saying there, I've been pretty blessed for Perlo. I mean,
yeah, we both have.
Yeah, I mean, I never have been laid off from Perlo. I mean, your dad told me years ago when I'm washing windows and I asked him, hey, do I need to look for another job? He says, you're getting a check, ain't you? I said, okay, I'll keep washing windows. I mean, I've been fortunate. And some of these guys, you know, who haven't, I mean, it's like his story he says right there. So, I mean, I've been here. I mean, I did go to work when I was working in Auburn in Woodland for about 4 months because I got tired of driving up there. And then I tried to start my own business and that didn't work out very good. So,
But
in
there's
20,
always
what
a place
am
to
I,
go back
20,
to. This company's
28
been good
years
to
or
us.
whatever. I mean, your dad didn't have to hire me back and they did. So,
Yeah.
I've been blessed. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't say I've actually been laid off from Perlo. I think I always beat him to the punch. But at the same time, I was kind of going on the way I was taught that, you know, you work yourself out of a job and go find another one. And they were always good enough to hire me back. I always tried to give them more than their money's worth, you know, for a hard day's work. But there's been some good opportunities here, so that's been good.
Mm-hmm. And you'll still see you out there with your bags on occasion.
oh, I
would
doubt
prefer
if
to
help it.
I'm doubt if he's doing anything, just looking good. He wants to look like he's doing something.
No, I mean, in actuality, that's what I would. I still consider myself just a carpenter, but you've got to grow in life.
All right, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Mark and George, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Perlo Podcast. Visit us online at perlo.biz. Subscribe to catch our future episodes and join us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube to discuss all things construction. And finally, work hard, do what's right, and make it fun. Until next time. Welcome back to the Perlo Podcast. I'm gonna do that again so I can say welcome properly. I'm gonna throw you again for a loop.
Let's hear it.
Okay, I've heard that you have a nickname, George Kardashian.
Well, he's actually Caitlin, and I was Kim, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah.
Oh, you're Kim?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Well, have you looked behind yourself lately?
have you looked down lately? Jordan and Whitney constantly give me such a hard time, like I'm a movie star, because I'm always on Perlo's stuff. They were giving us a hard time after a meeting, so me and Mark posed for a picture and said something about,
No, we were just trying to do a stupid selfie.
yeah, a selfie with both of us in the pickup, and we wrote Caitlin and Kim or something like that. We're movie stars. Oh yeah, so they got us with that one.
Now this whole sit down's gonna
now
really add to
everyone's
that.
gonna know the story. But, you know, I think I'm better being Kim than him, Caitlin. So I think I'm better off here. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And so they interviewed the builder primarily. It wasn't about my dad, but
That
Oh,
was bad.
that was.
it's okay. We're not going to put that
Hey,
in the
so why
podcast.
aren't you silenced?
So this summer,
It's my mom.
it's your mom?
Yeah, she's come to visit today. Yeah, where's my mom? Let me turn that off, sorry.